Alright guys, today we are going to talk about Warhammer's most formidable fortresses. Now, I have to admit, when the Siege rework first came out, I was a bit of a skeptic. Now, certainly it has its problems. We're not going to talk about any of that today. We're just going to focus on which of these fortresses I think are the most impenetrable. And you'll have to give me a little bit of creative license as well, because I'm also going to talk about some of the surrounding area and their placement on the campaign map as well. Not just the actual battle map, but I have to say the maps themselves are really growing on me, and we've got a lot of siege maps in here, which is really nice to see in a Total War game. So you've got to give credit where credit's due. There's a lot of effort that's been put into these siege maps, despite some of the gimmicky mechanics that have been added. But like I said, I was a skeptic, but I'm seeing some of the great aspects of them. But in any case, let's get right into it. Before I do, let me know which siege maps are your favorites in this game. Which fortresses do you think are the strongest on the map? All right, counting down from number 5 on my list, we have Kadrin, home of the Slayer King. Kadrin commands Peak Pass. It is the entry point to northern Sylvania and Ostermark. It's a vital entry point into the mountain passes and beyond. Very formidable forces, strategically located. There's only 2 ways in, essentially. Well, I guess 3. You count the underway passes, so you can come in through here, or you can come in through the mountain passes. But very formidable. Let's take a look at the actual battle map itself. Here we are, boys. The Great Dwarven Fortress of Kadrin. Anyone who's sieged this bad boy knows that it can be a pain in the ass. If you're not on your game, you can suffer some major casualties. One of the big issues that you will run into sieging this fortress is your potential where your armies are coming in, your deployment zones. The towers reach pretty well to the edge of the map, and there's not a lot of blind spots, to be honest. These towers cover a lot of the area here, so if you have limited siege equipment, as in artillery, you could potentially be in for a rough day. But these tunnels, I'm sure the dwarves have well booby-trapped and are well guarded. The approach of enemy armies is probably very likely to be known by the dwarves, so all of their preparation would be they'll be well prepared for you by the time you get there. And I would think that the dwarves are going to make your life miserable as you're marching in a straight line through these tunnels. This is located deep in the caverns. We're down all the way to the magma. We've got magma rivers below. Our main victory point is in the center, which has a commanding view of a lot of the battlefield, so you can place artillery up here. And we've got a choke point with an elevated ramp for the defenders to defend there. You can line ranged units along here, so very defensible position here in the center. And then, of course, if there's the dwarves need to retreat, need an exit strategy, we've got some tunnels on each side. So very interesting fortress. This one has given me some trouble when I've sieged it. We've got a exit point over here as well. So not the most formidable. This is why it's number 5 on my list, but I do really like this fortress. Each one of these sections are almost like a giant rampart. A lot of areas where you can place range units, make it really difficult. It's pretty much an uphill battle whichever way you go for the attackers. So there you have it, guys. Kadrin. Let's move on to the next fortress. Number 4, the Eagle Gate. Now, this could stand in for any one of these gates. These are all very difficult to take, and they have different iterations. I'm not sure if they brought them all over from Warhammer 2, but the Eagle Gate, very difficult to take. Now, we have to put in a little bit of a caveat here, because we have to assume that the High Elves hold this part of the map. But even if they don't, even if this was able to be sieged from both sides, you have a narrow mountain pass on either side. So even if it's getting attacked on both sides, there's just a narrow mountain pass for those armies to move through there. And there's no underground, there's no underway here. So it's just 2 ways in. The gate locks it down, and this is your only way into the donut, aside from going through. Well, these gates are the only way in, aside from sailing past Lothern. So let's take a quick look at the actual battle map itself. Ooh, boy, look at this beauty. My goodness, this is freaking gorgeous. Just take a look at this bad boy. So we've got this one way in, this one pass in. It's commanding the entire mountain pass here. We've got lookout towers sprinkled around the top here, which are going to see any approaching army days, maybe even weeks before they get anywhere near the fortress. It's just fantastic, a beauty in terms of strategic positioning. We've got what looks like some form of keep up here, extended wall in this in the back here. Just a very formidable fortress. Any approach here, you're going to either have to split your forces and come up in one of these two places. The moat here kind of forces you to either divide your forces or come in through one narrow passageway. The towers are going to command most of this area, so if you don't have artillery, you are in for a long day, 100%. We've got another, another keep over here, but very nice. Not a huge map by any means. It's a little bit smaller, but we do have these elevated areas where we can place artillery, and we've got elevated areas to choke the defender off. But the main victory point is right in the center here, and you can hold these areas, and you've got a pretty clear view of any troops coming in. So they're going to have to come in through here or here, and we can place artillery ranged units in these areas to pick them off. So not a lot of options for the defender. You've really taking these gates, if you're not equipped for it, if you're not prepared for it, can really be a tough chore. So I really love this map, and yeah, it's lookout towers out here as well. I mean, just look at this bad boy. A small outpost, probably a small garrison that can potentially harass armies as they make their approach. It's just a lovely fortress, and you can tell they've got a nice water supply back here, or at least I assume that's water under there. It's kind of dark, it's hard to tell, but one would assume they've got plenty of water supply. And not to mention too, this little lovely rainbow here maybe indicates that there's very strong winds of magics in this region as well, so defenders would probably have access to quite powerful magic also. So just a lovely fortress. I love it. Very tough to take. My pick for number 3 on the list of Warhammer's most formidable fortress is Helmgart. This fort is going to share a lot of similarities with the High Elf Gate, and we could do an honorable mention here as well of the Dragon Gate in Cathay, but I feel that Helmgart here is the strongest of the 3 variants, and it controls the mountain pass here between Bretonnia and the Empire. We've got Altdorf in the distance here, and of course No armies passed through here without Franzi knowing about it. Any roving beastmen tribes or roving orc armies, none of them are going to make it through this pass without Franz knowing about it, or at least Franz potentially stopping them dead in their tracks. This is a very formidable fortress. You got to be well prepared to take this bad boy. Let's take a closer look. Here we go, boys. Look at this bad boy. There is only one way through, one approach. As you can see, there's the marks of craters from where previous armies attempted to make the assault here. We've got the towers commanding all of this area. If you don't have the artillery to take them out, you're in for potentially a very, very long day. We've got some structures here, some fortifications over here, which kind of indicates that this fortress would very likely be able to house a very large garrison, one would assume. And this is the really sweet part. We've got the encampments here. Obviously, the Empire takes this place very seriously and keeps their troops ready. Likely, it's a training area for a lot of Empire recruits. And we do also have, we've got the lookout tower on top here. And we've got some various other towers that I'm sure are used as lookouts. And it's a very tumultuous, difficult pass on the other side. So this commands the entire mountain pass. Very strong, but this is like when we get into the back area of the fortress, this is just a beautiful symmetric defensive fortification. I mean, just man, I this is one of my favorite fortresses, maybe my favorite fortress to defend, just because of how easy it is to defend. Attacking armies, they can funnel through one of three ways here, but this center bastion just commands the entire area. You can keep your artillery up here, your range units, and then you can bog down. You can control any of these various choke points. There's only two entryways into the main victory point here. And you've got the elevated ramp here to give your units a little bit of a boost in terms of commanding the high ground. It's just fantastic. And then on top of that, you also have various places where you can hide cavalry to spring surprise attacks, so you can wait till the enemy gets bogged down in some of these choke points and then send your cavalry in to smash them in behind. It's just a phenomenal fortress, so much fun to defend. You know, we've got the main city back here, so, and the I guess if you need to make a last minute retreat back through here. But lovely fortress, very difficult to take. And again, a recurring theme here, if you don't have artillery, the approach is going to be, you're in for a long day. There's no real blind spots here to be had necessarily. These towers command most of the area coming in. So, and then on top of that, we've also got some wooded area here. So armies marching through here potentially set up some ambushes and harass them. Maybe some outriders with grenades, some fast moving troops that can just hit and run and whittle down approaching armies. So very, very strong fortress. This bad boy, you can defend, with a small garrison, you can defend against some very strong armies. In any case, let's move on to our top two fortresses. This was a really tough call, guys. My number 1 and number 2 fortresses were so close, but here we've got Kissl. This is my number 2 pick. The indomitable fortress of the north, the last bastion of holding off the hordes of chaos. Kissl is positioned in a vital part of the map. It really commands the northeastern part of the map, and it's incredibly important to the Empire that Kissl is in friendly hands. Otherwise, all of the nasty forces from the north can start funneling in through here. But I don't think the campaign map necessarily does justice to what the battle map features of this fortress are, which we are going to take a look at right now. Oh, baby, look at this bad boy. My goodness. Here we are, Kissl. One of the aspects that I really love about this settlement is that it appears that there is really only a few passes where you can traverse through here. So we've got a mountain pass here. It doesn't look like this is passable over here, really. We've got like a little village right there, but this area doesn't seem passable as far as I can tell. I mean, it's hard to tell off in the distance there. But we do have a river here. I guess it's probably the melting ice from the glaciers or whatever. We've got a couple of lookout posts in around this area. Small farms out here as well. But we've got a mountain pass here, and we've also got a mountain pass here. But as far as I can tell, that looks really like the only entry points in here, unless this is potentially traversable. But what the cool thing is, depending on which one of these passes the enemy armies are marching through, Kissl could potentially set up their forces and hold these choke points, hold these mountain passes, and make it extremely difficult for armies to get in through here. I love this, and I mean, Kissl, obviously, Little Grom will go a long way into keeping armies from coming through here. And yeah, we've got the Zargard out here as well, but very Thermopylae-esque. And if need be, they could potentially hold both choke points for quite a long time. And you got to think here in the mountain areas that there's probably an endless supply of potential ammunition for those artillery. I'm sure they can forge out of the stone from the mountains plenty of cannonballs. If holding these passes seems untenable, then we've got the fortress itself to fall back to, which is massive. It's got layered defenses. We've got plenty of towers. Look at the towers on the outside here. Not a lot. You might get a little of a blind spot here, so a bit of potentially a weak point there to keep an eye out for, but plenty of layers to this bad boy, and you can make the attackers pretty well fight all the way through. And when we take a look at this, the main palace of the Ice Queen herself, which I'm sure serves as the keep for the fortress as well. Essentially, she would be falling back here with all her elite troops. Now, of course, this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier with a bit of creative liberty, because I believe this is the actual victory point here of the fortress, but realistically, this would be the main, where the last stand is going to be, taking this keep here. But superb fortress, and of course, to survive in the inhospitable north, you would have to have a formidable fortress like this. You've got all variations of Norskins, Skaven, Warriors of Chaos, all knocking on your door, and you want to make sure that that door doesn't get knocked over. So, Kissl, number 2 on the list. Let's move on to our number 1 Warhammer fortress. Here it is, boys. My number 1 pick for Warhammer's most formidable fortresses. Back here on the donut once again, the High Elf city of Torr. I have a lot of love for this little fortress. This bad boy commands the eastern side of Uthwan from threats from the north. Probably you're going to be looking at Norskin or Forces of Chaos, and then of course from anyone coming in from Bretonnia as well, potentially Grom the Paunch. I know Torr is very famous for its defense against one of Grom's massive wogs. We've also got some, potentially Skaven coming in from the south. But this fortress is vital to protecting the eastern shore of Uthwan. Anyone who's done the Altharion the Grim campaign in Warhammer 2, I don't know if you guys did the Blitz campaign competition that Legend of Total War and Lore Master of Sotek put on a couple years ago, but it was a blast, and that's part of the reason why I've got a lot of love for Torr. But in addition to that, I mean, you got to think about this logically. Eltharion being a master strategist and tactician, you've got to assume that he has secret tunnels through the mountains here in order to gain supplies from the rest of Uthwan, and then if connecting it to the White Tower of Toth back here. It's very likely very powerful winds of magic in this region, plenty of water supply, but it's very likely the High Elves would be able to keep this fortress supplied indefinitely through these secret tunnels. And I mean, yes, I'm making some assumptions here, but you got to think that Eltharion would have thought of these things. And then, of course, if this area in behind has been captured by the enemy, more than likely the tunnels, Eltharion would have booby-trapped them, potentially could be flooded or caved in or whatnot to prevent enemies from coming through there. So let's take a closer look at the actual battle map and see what we're working with here. Here she is, boys, the mighty fortress of Torr. I freaking love this citadel. Now, I feel like there are some minor changes between this and Warhammer 2's map. However, I don't have Warhammer 2 installed, so we'll just work with Warhammer 3. But I feel like some of the nuances to Warhammer's 2 map provide a little bit better defensive capabilities. But let's just take a look and appreciate this bad boy. It's nestled into the mountain, so it's using the mountain as, you know, part of its natural defense. We've got towers up here as lookouts to identify any incoming armies before they get anywhere near the approach of the city. We've got our initial defenses here with these spires. I'm sure they can either, it looks like they could potentially house wizards, but I think they're just more or less supposed to be defensive towers. But in the game, I think only the towers on the actual city fire out. But I mean, you would think that these are equipped with firepower to really slow down anything and just demolish anything that comes in here. We have a small port here, but it's interesting. It's not connected to, or okay, actually, okay, yeah. So it looks like they've dug out canals here. To be perfectly honest, I mean, this could be a natural feature potentially, but it could also potentially be actual canals, and it looks like it might reach out to the sea. You would think it would. It's hard to tell there if the bend goes around. It looks like it actually might even stop off there, but one would assume that you could sail ships in through here, and then you've got the fortified gate area here, so you could potentially keep it supplied from the ocean as well. And then this is obviously where Eltharion houses his navy. We've got very powerful very strong looking fortifications in here. And then let's oh my gosh, just freaking incredible. The main victory point is in the center here, which there's a lot of ways you can come in, but depending on where you attack from, the defender has a lot of options to hold you off and position range units in ideal areas to slow you down. You've also got these corners here where you can hold the enemy off. A lot of layers to this fortress, plenty of towers in front here. There's only one real approach, so I mean, this area is just going to be one mass killing field. You've also got a lot of bastion towers up here. Honestly, I think Warhammer 2, it sort of indicates that this would be the main keep in behind here, which is, or well, actually, I guess this would be your main keep, but very, very formidable fortress. I had a lot of fun, especially in Warhammer 2, playing on this map, battling it out with Grom, holding off his endless hordes of goblins and orcs, ogres, and giants. Beautiful fortress, And yeah, that's it, guys. That's our list. That's my top 5 most formidable fortresses in Warhammer. Let me know what you think, guys. Do you agree with my assessment here, with my choices? What are your favorite fortresses? Which ones do you think are have the strongest defensive capabilities? Which ones have given you the most trouble when attacking? And which ones have you had the most ease of defending? But yeah, I'm going to leave it here, guys. Just, oh my gosh, beautiful scenery. I mean, that's one thing. You got to give it to CA, man. Their graphic designers and their artists are just top tier, man. Just beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Ragnarok signing out.